Don and I played a ton of games at Gamescom, and though we've talked about a couple of them on the channel so far, there's a lot more we want to get through. Now, we can't talk about everything, especially because Don played literally a few hundred games at the show, but we do want to talk about our top highlights from the show, or some of our highlights, as we go through this, including Lego Party, Pac-Man World 2 Re-Pac, Pokemon Legends ZA, Super Meat Boy 3D, Bandit Trap, Scott Pilgrim EX, Bubsy 4D, and even more in a rapid-fire section. So, let's get to it. I want to start off with what surprised me the most, Don, I will say, being Lego Party. I was shocked by not only how fun this game is, but just, I mean, I guess that is it, how fun this game is. Like, how someone may have finally made a good Mario Party competitor, basically by ripping off Mario Party in almost every way, which I'm totally fine with. Don, you played this as well. What do you think of this game? Did you enjoy it as much as I did, or what's your take on it?
I absolutely did. I think I'm mostly impressed by, honestly, how good the minigames are, and how still different it feels from Mario Party, because yes, there are some basic elements that are very similar compared to Mario Party when it comes to its board elements, but also a few things that it does very differently for the better, I feel.
What are you thinking specifically?
If you do, for example, like a 24-turn game, like every 6 turns there will something change in the board. And I don't know about you, I feel sometimes like the home stretch in Mario Party is fine, but it feels like it's the final point section that honestly matters the most in any game of Mario Party. And by basically changing stuff around like every 6 turns, like every change in impact matters throughout that game.
That's a good point. It's almost like there's multiple home stretches, if you will, or whatever it's called in Mario Party in this game. And I believe specifically, like in many cases, like every 6 turns is like doubling the value of things, right? Like you get more bricks instead of coins for doing this, or you'll lose more from this. And that actually is kind of cool. And there's also the element too of you can build like Lego structures around the map, if I remember correctly. And those have different effects as well. So yeah, I do like that they added these, these tweaks to the Mario Party formula while still very clearly being based on Mario Party. To the point that after everyone goes, you have a mini game, and then you can steal people's, gold bricks, which are the stars in this game's version, by spending almost the same amount. I think it's actually 70 bricks in this case to steal a brick, which I actually like. It costs a little bit more, so I do appreciate that. Furthermore, too, is they do something cool where after every mini game, not only do you win bricks from that, of course, which are your coins in this case, but also it determines a turn order for the next round. So whoever wins, I think, goes first, followed by second, third, and fourth. And that's actually really cool. So it adds a dynamic element to the play order, which you've never had in Mario Party before.
I think it adds stakes, basically, to it. Like Mario Party is very structured in its sense, and sort of set in its ways. It feels like this game has more stakes involved, while also keeping it fresh the entire time.
And to that point too, they did something here, which I'm not sure how I'll fully feel about in the end, but I do appreciate the thought that went into it, is that they wanted to focus on good luck and not Mario Party's often bad luck, right? So they didn't want like people to get randomly destroyed by factors beyond their control, though there are still some elements of it here, but they wanted to focus more on the good luck side of things, where, good things can happen to you rather than bad things. Although I will say, I actually often like the bad things in Mario Party too, especially when it happens to someone that's not me. So, we'll have to see how that shakes out. But I have to say, Don, I played, I think, nearly a 40-minute round at the show. So basically, we got a full board game in it, but I think it was, I can't remember how many turns. I'll have a video of it, though. And I had so much fun playing it here. Partially because, not only did it capture the feel of Mario Party for... there have been a lot of Mario Party competitors over the years. This is the first one that I feel like really nailed it. But also, not just on the board game front, on the minigame front too. I mean, to the extent, Don, I would say the minigames I played here, they actually might be better on average than the latest rounds of Mario Party games in the newest game in Jamboree. Plus, also no Jamboree buddies, which I'm a huge fan of. So,
I mean, SMG Studio as a studio, and they're a studio based in Australia, who's the one making this game. They are very well known for making bite-sized games.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at their track history, they made a lot of good mobile games that came later to Switch. And also, like, even their larger games, like a game like Death Squared, which is a puzzle-based co-op game, like, had a bunch of different modes that were basically based on working together and doing stuff together. So they've been also always been really good at making bite-sized games. What the minigames are in their specific way, because they are a bit larger than Mario Party minigames, they're basically 60 bite-sized games.
Yeah. And that's awesome. Like, yeah, it feels like they have, in some cases, a little bit more replayability than Mario Party. I mean, to the extent that mini games can. But like you had like a whole like motorcycle game that's basically like a mini Trials. You have another game that is it reminded me a bit of Kirby 64, one of their mini games where you're like walking around knocking down platforms. You're trying to like cut off the other players, which is awesome. I always love that mini game. There's another one that actually was very much Mario Party like. You know, the stamp mini game where you're hopping around in the stamp and you're trying to claim as much territory as possible. But this one's a little bit simpler because you're walking around and just automatically claiming territory instead. That was cool. And then there's also like a fun rhythm game too. It almost felt like a simpler Guitar Hero or something. So
for sure, yeah.
Did any mini games stand out to you that you played?
I mean, definitely the stamp one. I like the fact that also running around it goes a lot faster. So also screwing yourself over by the end of things. It was also like a very good overhead racing game.
Yes, a top-down one. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Which the controls felt really good on that. You could take the corners very sharply, and it made it so much fun.
Like, and to that point, this entire game feels really polished. Like, it's not just a knockoff for the sake of it, like a cheap cash grab. They put a lot of time and attention into it, and how the minigames feel, into how the board game plays, of which I think there's 4 different maps, by the way, for the boards. And then also, the overall presentation is fantastic, where you have these, like, this newscaster or game show-like aesthetic, and then they were even telling me there were, like, over 130,000 lines of dialogue or something, which is insane, and I assume probably has to partly come by way of, like, different combinations of, like, you know, of the announcer saying different things, but I don't know. In any case, that's a lot of dialogue, and I wish Mario Party would rip that off, because that's really cool. It adds a little bit more lively element to the game.
And there's also, it supports a bunch of different languages, which is also crazy for how much dialogue there is in the game.
Yeah.
Plus, there's like a million different combinations possible for your minifig.
Yeah. That you create yourself, you can customize them.
Insane, yeah.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Like, if you're into Lego and you like Mario Party, this is the perfect combination of them. So, and I do think, no, it's way too early to say for sure, I think there is a chance this could be better than Mario Party. I'm not saying it is yet. I'm just saying there is a chance that it could be better than at least, you know, some of the recent Mario Parties. So, we'll see, but the fact that I can even say that as an idea is saying something about this game.
I do think it will be more populated because A, it's Lego, B, it has crossplay. So,
which is huge. You can play across multiple platforms together.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's really cool. So people who don't own a Switch, who can't even play Mario Party, hey, here's your alternative. So I just have to say, from what I played, I can't wait to play more. No, you know, and I hope that the rest of the mini games and the rest of the boards live up to the ones that we played, because so far it's really promising. All right, we'll have to play more once it comes out pretty soon, I think, at the end of the month. So I can't wait to hopefully cover that on the channel more.
September 26th?
That sounds right. So
yeah.
All right, speaking of games I'm excited for, this is one I didn't get to play, but you did, Don, being Pac-Man World 2 Re-Pac. Don, I am a huge fan of Pac-Man World 2. I love that game, back before it was, you know, the popular thing to like in retrospect. And I want you to tell me more about this. Is the remake good? Is Re-Pac Edition, does it do the original game justice?
I think it does. Here's the thing. I didn't really like Pac-Man World Re-Pac very much, because it sometimes felt like a bit incoherent in what it exactly wanted to be. I feel that there's more of a stronger identity with Pac-Man World 2. For sure. It feels very coherent. They still make the good decisions that they'd taken and made with Re-Pac. They put in Re-Pac 2. Like the butt stomp feels more excessive. The Mega Pac-Man is back. They kind of blended the best elements from Re-Pac together with World 2 and made it a very coherent experience.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. So obviously they updated, you know, the visuals look modern. I know one of the things, did you get playing the boss fights by chance?
Yes, I played against the frog, Clyde.
Okay, tell me more about that, because one of the things I instantly noticed from the trailer is that they've updated all the boss fights, where now they're not all controlling robot forms, now they're like controlling, or rather the same robot-like forms, but now they're like different animal-based things, and the frog one actually seemed to be the most similar, but they still changed it from what I could tell, so tell me more about that. How did that play?
I didn't notice immediately any major differences. What I do feel is that the layers were designed a bit better. So obviously you have the first layer where the tongue sticks out, it gets stuck, and you jump on it with the butt stomp. And in the second phase, like with Pac-Man moving a bit faster, he can edged very much closer to the frog's mouth and hit harder in the second phase. And I think that made progression go a lot faster and smoother.
Okay. Good. So did it feel like a modern game, or did it feel like a game that was updated?
It felt like a modern game.
Okay.
And I necessarily felt that all the way with World Re-Pac per se, but with Pac-Man World 2, I honestly feel like they took the blueprint of the new game, added stuff they also done with Re-Pac, and made it a lot better game and a lot smoother.
All right. Yeah, I mean that sounds good to me. I love the original game, and I haven't played it super recently, but I do remember there was something about the overall like vibes and the feel of the game that I loved. That I always do worry could be lost a little bit in translation with a with a remake. So, but what you're saying sounds good so far. Is there anything else you took away from your playtime with it? Like anything about the feel or the graphics or anything?
Graphically, looked fantastic. I played it on PlayStation 5 specifically, and it looked really sharp in 4K. I think more so, it just felt a lot more fluid. Like, the controls were better mapped across the controller. You can feel like everything having weight to it, and the butt stomp felt way more satisfying to pull off.
I mean, it was already good before, so I want more of that satisfying butt stomp. Did you come across any of those kind of classic style Pac-Man segments where you're like either you're in the maze, top-down maze, or anything, or?
Not so much in like a maze style. I mean, there is one in that first like explanatory level of the game. But it's more so that you transformed into Mega Pac-Man, which was also in the original Re-Pac. And basically blasted through that stage, destroying everybody.
That's awesome. Heck yeah. So are you excited for this one too, based on your playtime? Like, are you going to pick it up, you think, or?
No, for sure. And it's going to be a crazy busy period this month, but I will definitely make time for it, for sure.
There's a lot happening. All right. Let's move on to another big game, being Pokemon Legends ZA, or Z to A. I can never remember how you say it.
ZA, Legends ZA. Yeah.
So, there were 2 demos at the show. I played one of them, being the battle tutorial almost, and I have to say, Don, I didn't love that. So just because it was kind of boring and like you're just going down these dull alleys and you fought a handful of trainers, and the combat was mildly interesting based on what I played, but beyond that, I didn't leave much of an impression. How about you? You played the other demo too. How did that stack up?
So I played them both in English, because on the show floor they were in German. I got invited by the Pokemon Company to go behind the scenes and play it there. The first demo is what it is. I was not overly impressed by it. I mean, it sort of helps you with... What I like about it is the positioning of the Pokemon and your character, and then still using basically effective moves to quickly take down the opponent. As such, though, I felt like I completed that first part of that demo way too quickly, like in a couple of minutes. So I didn't really feel like I got a good impression of like the overall combat flow of that game. Because how quickly those trainer battles really went. Where I felt I got a better impression was basically the second part of that demo, where you basically fight more of a rogue Pokemon who then Mega evolves into his Mega form. And is not tied to any trainer, it just roams around and trying to stop you. And basically, it becomes more of a circle battle where you try to move around the opponent, and the opponent Pokemon is trying to attack you, the trainer, instead of the Pokemon all the time.
So that's a little bit like the first Legends too, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
it feels a lot more involved in that sense. Obviously, you still have a Pokemon to use. You collect energy to Mega Evolve your own Pokemon and use your own strong attacks, which eventually runs out, and they have to collect more energy to keep that streak going. It felt like a very inherent like version of chess, where it ran sort of back and forth. And basically, that side of it I find really cool.
All right. So I guess, did you get the sense though how often that might show up in the final game? Because I remember in the first game, there's only a handful of boss fights where you had that kind of action. So do you think that's more prominent here based on what you saw, or can you just not tell at this point?
It's hard to say. Like, once again, that first part of the demo felt really short, and that second part felt super coherent and well designed. And I'm hoping those battles show up more often than a few times. Because they seem so much fun to play around with. And it feels like such a shame to not do more with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds like that was the better of the two demos for sure. So I wish I had been able to play that one instead of the one I did. Is there anything else that stood out to you about it that got you more excited or thinking more about the final
I
game?
mean, it runs really smooth on Switch too.
Better with those visuals.
They didn't made it a concerned effort to basically show the entirety of those demos on Switch 2, regardless if you were at the Nintendo booth or in the Pokemon area or behind the scenes. Right. They were never showing it off on the Switch 1, which was very interesting.
Yeah, I guess I just want to focus on Switch 2 at this point. And probably also because it does, run better on that platform, I imagine, than Switch 1. So
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, good. Anything else about it, Don, or should we move on to the next game?
Let's move on to the next game.
All right. I want to touch on Super Meat Boy 3D. I wasn't planning on playing it, but I was in the area and I'm like, the line's not too bad. I might as well hop in. Yes. And I played it for for a round, and it's cool. I had fun with it. Did you play it too, Don? Or
yes, I played for the demo twice.
Oh wow! All right. So how far did you get? Like I got into the meat or the factory portion, a little ways into that. Yeah, and then my demo time ran out. So the second time you probably did way better, I'm guessing.
I was near the end of that level. That level is really hard, though.
It gets really... I was, like, flying through the early part, but then once you get to the factory, it really steps up in difficulty. I'm like, oh, man. Yes. So I thought it was cool. It captured the idea of Meat Boy, which is like, rapid-fire gameplay with a lot of deaths along the way. I will say, though, the controls didn't feel quite right to me or quite as I expected. They weren't bad, but maybe like a little looser, like not quite as tight as I remember from the 2D experience. And that threw me off a little bit, I think. And also the nature of 3D does make it a little bit harder to gauge both the level design and like how you're interacting with it compared to the 2D games.
I felt at some points where basically Meat Boy went further into the background. Sometimes I had a very weird look at that game, and sometimes I couldn't really feel what exactly I was doing.
This would have been a great game on the 3DS with that 3D screen,
Oh, yeah. I think outside of that, though, like, not necessarily that I disagree with your point, but at the same time, like, it felt like Meat Boy. If that makes sense. Like, it felt like the long jumps, the dungeon crawling from Super Meat Boy Forever, the auto-scrolling one. Like, all that combined made for a very interesting experience where you just had to get the hang of it and just keep going.
Yeah, and that could be it too. Maybe maybe I'll adjust more over time. It definitely, it's definitely reminiscent of Meat Boy for sure. It doesn't feel like dramatically different. It just didn't feel as tight to me as the 2D games, which maybe is an unavoidable consequence of going into 3D. So
for sure, yeah, 100%.
Anything else that stood out to you about the game?
It looks really pretty. That game looks honestly really impressive for what it's trying to be, like more of a sandbox Meat Boy.
Yeah,
like they made a lot of fun level elements in that game, because like especially if you go to the factory level, you can basically, if you go through the second part, the second drop down, you can basically keep hanging on the wall and going right.
Yeah,
which is such a neat trick. Like you don't see the first time you go, but then the second time you go, it changes everything in your head.
That's actually a great point. I think one thing this does do more is, it's almost a little sandbox-like in the amount of ways you can platform through the environment. Unlike the 2D one, which was generally more restrictive, I think. Yes. Like, there's basically a clear path to get through it, or a path you'll discover. This one's a little bit more open-ended, where, you can run along the walls, you can avoid some obstacles entirely. You have, like, that air dash, too, if I remember correctly, they can use to, like, skip things, and that's really neat. And I discovered, like, even in my brief playtime, like, multiple routes through an area. I'm like, oh, this one worked way better than the previous one, or this is safer, and it is fun to experiment with that, to see what works better or not, and it helps you get through it. In some ways, might be slower, but they might be safer, so...
There's a risk-reward element to it that I really appreciate, yeah.
Yeah, especially with how involved some of those segments can get. Like, the factory really steps it up, and this is still, I imagine, early games. It's gonna get crazy later on, so...
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to another game I played. I don't think you touched this one, Don, but this one is called Bandit Trap. It's a game I had to check out because I love asymmetrical games. I love the Nintendo Land and all its various multiplayer games, and I'm huge on Dead by Daylight, which is 1 versus 4, killer versus survivors. This game is 1 versus 3, where you have the trapper, the 1, versus the 3 bandits that try and break in and steal your stuff, basically. And I tried both roles, and it's basically, if you think of it, like it's like Home Alone, where you can play as Macaulay Culkin or as the bandits, only being 3 in this case. So the whole idea is, as a trapper, you have time to set up traps, like around the house before the bandits start breaking in through a variety of doorways. And as a trapper, you can, you can actually move around the house as they're breaking in, and you can take control of the traps. You can move them around. You can hide in. It's almost like a little bit like prop hunt-esque in that you can take control of a prop or of a trap, move it around, try to capture the bandits that way. Though if you're moving around in clear sight, they can see you and know specifically what's bugged. While at the same time they can analyze the environment. They have these X-ray tools almost to see where exactly the treasure is hidden. And if you haven't booby-trapped those areas, they're going to be able to get it pretty quick and easily. Now, I will say this game is it's not super simple to get into. So with me only having 1 round under my belt on both sides, there's definitely a lot more to the game than I was able to pick up on. But there definitely seems to be a good amount of depth here, and it seemed like a really cool idea.
Right.
Who didn't want to play as play a good version of Home Alone, rather than the NES games, where you can really set the traps yourself and take on a team of humans who are playing the other side. It seems like a really great idea, and based on my short playtime, it seemed like it'll have a lot of potential fun in there and of a lot of hidden depth into it too. Especially when you're being chased around, you can slide through these little barriers between rooms that the bandits can't. So you can evade them a little bit quicker, So.
Basically living your Macaulay Culkin dream.
Yeah, exactly right. So I don't know if that's up your alley at all, Don, but for anyone that sounds appealing
it sounds fun, yeah. It sounds
it's really cool.
Fun.
And there's a ton of different traps too, like homing rockets in one of them. You're having rockets shot out by furniture that you trapped it in, or you set the trap in. It's just a lot going on. I can't remember all the different traps, but there's a huge variety of them, and I can't wait to learn more of them. That's even better. Cool. So yeah, so definitely keep an eye on this game. Seems really promising. So. Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to our next game, which in this case is going to be Scott Pilgrim EX. So is it an update, like a remaster of the original game that came out 10 years ago at this point now, or no longer?
No, it's a new game. So it's not made by Ubisoft. It's made by Tribute Games, which is made of some ex-Ubisoft employees. They recently made Shredder's Revenge, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game. Mm-hmm. They're made for these very good-looking sprite-based games, and they've been making them over the last number of years or so. They've been very consistent in releasing games. Mm-hmm. This time around, they're making a Scott Pilgrim game, which is, funny enough, very River City Ransom-like in its approach. So basically, it's an open world, so very compact areas, and you go from area to area to fight enemies. You basically go for different parts of the map. There's a weird time travel element to it in the demo, where you basically go back in time to get this weird instrument and bring it back to your age. Mm-hmm. It's like a weird radical adventure with Scott Pilgrim. But yeah, it's honestly very, in the design aesthetic, it's very River City Ransom based, which I honestly think is really, really cool.
Now, maybe my memory is hazy. Wasn't the original game also River City Ransom-like too? Like the first game?
It was more structured levels, so it had a beginning and an end. Here, not so much, because basically you have a map where you can go from point A to point B, and then back to point A. Basically, you're traveling through the wondrous background of Canada, as the program is really based on.
Right.
It's a wondrous place. I don't know if you ever heard of it. But you travel there from point to point. What I do like more, compared to, say, a game like River City Girls, and I do really like River City Girls from Way Forward, is that the individual tiles that you travel to are quite large in that game. Here in Scott Pilgrim, they felt more compact. So you have a number of enemies, you have maybe a mission or two, you have some dialogue, and then you immediately go back into the next point of that game, which consistently makes the flow go a whole lot faster. Okay. In that demo, felt like went by insanely fast.
Huh. That's interesting. So it's very arcadey-like, I'm assuming, then, in its feel, right?
Yes. It feels a bit more arcadey, halfway between, something like River City Girls, which was a very good game once again, but very open and wider areas, where here it feels more compact and you go basically from bit to bit and basically from mission to mission.
Okay. Good. Well, any other takeaways from your playtime with it, or?
Honestly, I'm just really impressed with how that game feels. A lot of fun attacks, like really over-the-top elements as you could expect from Scott Pilgrim. It honestly looks like a really good time.
All right, well, that's great to hear. Well, let's move on to our final big topic, though we'll have a few other games we want to talk about briefly afterward. Being what might be one of the biggest surprises at the show, freaking Bubsy! Bubsy 4D! Tell me about this. Like, why? Why is he back? Tell me more about this game.
What happened before this is that Accolade, well, the rights of Accolade got sold to Atari. Atari basically accepting pitches for games to be made with the franchises that they own, and for some ungodly reason, for Brass, which is a very good indie developer, got the rights to make a Bubsy game.
Wow!
And then a year later, I was playing literally a demo for a game called Bubsy 4D.
Go figure. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bubsy. So, how do I describe it best? It feels like Bubsy 4D feels like the weird step cousin of, say, something like Super Mario 3D World or Mario Galaxy. It's even weird to even say that because we're talking about freaking Bubsy.
Bubsy, yeah.
Yeah, but he has so much fun platform elements in this game. It's honestly uncanny. So he can pounce, he can jump up walls, he can glide, he can double jump, he can attach himself to various objects using the R button and then jump further. He can also turn into a gigantic hairball and fly across a part of the track, or also like in a weird Super Monkey Ball-esque way.
Yeah.
There's so many cool elements to the platforming in that game. It's honestly unbelievable that it exists.
That it's good. It sounds like you had fun with it. That's amazing.
Yes.
So is it like I knew nothing about this game really beyond the reveal trailer, and I already forgot what I saw there. I was just in shock of it coming back at all.
Yes.
So is the camera like 3D World style, where like it's 3D environments but like kind of 2D still at the same time, or
it's
side scrolling?
So the camera is in the levels where it's a bit more closer to the player. It feels sort of like the Sahara, for example, that Sahara level.
Okay.
It sort of feels like that, but then basically taking it as a base and making a whole gamer surrounding it.
All right.
And it's so well done that I almost hate that I'm saying it.
Yeah.
Because I cannot believe there's something done well with the Bubsy franchise.
That is actually shocking. That actually seemingly handles well and is fun to play.
Not even that. Not only that. It's also a really funny game. So basically, the enemies from the last game, Bubsy 3D, the Woolies, they basically got taken over by the sheep they tried to steal in the last game, and the sheep basically transformed themselves into robots and trying to steal the golden fleece from Bubsy. And basically, Bubsy is going on an intergalactic adventure to stop these robotized sheep from taking over the world.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
And everybody is taking the absolute piss out of Bubsy. Like he sees himself as a B-list celebrity, and it was like, who the frick are you? And even his family is like, shut up, Bubsy.
That's the appropriate reaction. That's amazing. Wow, so this is actually on your radar now, huh? You actually want...
No, 100%. I think this is really good.
All right, man. You actually got me interested. I love platformers. I just find that, really good ones are pretty rare, so to speak. A lot of them are also made by Rare. Which, by the way, real quick, I played You Can Replay Early at the event. We have a whole video on it, too. I'm really excited for that one as well. So are we having, a resurgence of, good 3D platformers, Don?
I know, right?
Meatboy as well. Pac-Man. This is crazy. So... I'm excited.
I love them coming out in this period and a few next year. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, well, this is good. This is good stuff. Anything else about Bubsy 4D you want to touch on, or?
I just love the feel of that game. There's so much good control over Bubsy. It feels weird to say.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's crazy. I'm not used to this.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I can't even process this now, Don. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna try.
same.
When's it
Yeah.
cut? Do we have a release date for that one or
It's coming out next year. It's coming out
next year?
next
Okay.
year.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
more
yeah.
time to make it even better, hopefully. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the couple of final games, at least, that we're just going to touch on real briefly. I know you and I both played Final Fantasy VII Remake
Yes.
at the event on Switch 2. I had never played this game before. I'd been curious to check it out, and myself, playing briefly at the event, it made a good impression. It looks great on Switch 2.
Yes.
I know it's only running 30 frames per second, but it felt totally fine, based, again, on this being my first time playing it. And I liked it. You know, even though it was all in German, like, it wasn't hard for me to figure out most of the controls and adapt to it, you know?
Yes.
And I might actually want to check out the full thing now, whether on Switch 2 or PS5 or whatever. But tell me, but you played it too. What's your, in handheld form, no less. So
Yes.
tell me more about this.
So, I played it for an hour at Square Enix.
Wow.
And obviously, I already played for the game before, because I'm that type of person. Because
So how
I
does
love
it stack up?
RPGs. Yeah. It honestly stacks up really, really well. And obviously, this is in handheld. So I
Right.
find that a bit more impressive. Because even on Steam Deck, I don't necessarily think it ran the best.
Yeah.
Here it ran solid 30 frames a second, constantly all the way through. And I played through until the half of Chapter 2.
Wow.
Because I skipped through a bunch of the cutscenes because I already played this before. I just wanted to see what that experience was like.
Real quick, plus if you don't, like, those cutscenes eat into your playtime, so, like, there's almost
Yes.
no playtime left once you watch all the cutscenes.
Well, basically, you can hold, I think it's on Switch, it's the ZR button to speed up cutscenes.
Right.
So I did that a bunch, basically, to see more of the game. And, man, I'm just really impressed. Like, my mind sort of turned off during that hour I was at Square Enix. And I basically just kept playing for an hour nonstop, and then I was looking at the clock. Oh, 57 minutes have passed by.
So you were just getting absorbed in the game all over again, even in
Yes.
handheld form on the Switch too, and it sounds like visually it held up, right? Like it reminded you just because, yeah.
It holds its own, particularly, and I don't want to like steamroll the Steam Deck because it's honestly like a good device, but this feels optimized for Switch 2, like
All right.
sincerely optimized to make sure it runs well in handheld mode.
Yeah, I mean, it can reach a whole new audience on it, so it definitely makes sense. Well, that's exciting, Don. I may have to check out more of this game then on Switch 2. So, you also got to play Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection. How was that?
So I got like a full rundown of the entire thing, and obviously Digital Eclipse are the people who are behind like Atari 50 and Tetris Forever, two really good collections.
Yeah.
And they carried that over with Mortal Kombat. What I'm really impressed by is that there's a lot of obscure stuff in this collection, more so than, say, even Tetris Forever or Atari 50. For example, there is the WaveNet version of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, which was their first attempt at online multiplayer.
Okay.
Back in 1996.
Holy crap! Did it actually even run then?
Yeah, and they had full lines going from one arcade to the other, where they basically could play against one another to test.
That's awesome! Wow.
And like, there's at most like 5, according to Dan Emmerich of Digital Eclipse, there are like 500 people at most that ever played that original version of that game.
Right.
And then somehow they still had the source code, and they added that version to that collection,
Wow.
which is really impressive. There's also a bunch of like quality of life stuff. You can just basically go to the secret characters right away. One of the weirder things they've added was the Sub-Zero side-scrolling game from the PlayStation, and which was very unforgiving back in the day, which had like 4 lives at best,
Okay.
and then you had to start all over again. Basically, you now get unlimited lives. So you can finally experience that game in its full glory and how it actually is intended to see.
Amazing. There was also a Sub-Zero side-scrolling game on 64 too. Was that here?
It was also on 64, yes.
Okay, God, same game. All right.
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it was on PlayStation on 64. But yeah, you had limited lives, and now you just get endless lives to continue playing. And obviously, you can also rewind if you still want to have the original experience, but just wanted to cheat a little.
So this really does seem to be like kind of the ultimate Mortal Kombat collection, right? Like,
Right.
yeah.
And obviously, they still have the documentary stuff in the timeline from the other collections they've done. I think it's important to note for Nintendo Switch 2, because it's also coming to Nintendo Switch 2 specifically, is that the entire game will be on the game card.
Okay, good. That is exciting news in this day and age.
Yes.
All right.
They said it
good
was
stuff.
really expensive, but it was worth their time.
Excellent. Yeah, well, glad to hear it. I can't imagine it takes up too much room, so it kind of makes sense. Although maybe the videos add to that, of course. But the original ROMs, those can't be more than a few dozen megabytes at most, I would think. So.
Right. I mean, also at the same time, Digital Eclipse is also still updating Atari 50. They're adding another DLC pack very soon to that game, which is based on Namco.
Oh, that's awesome.
Crazy.
All right,
Yeah.
good stuff. Well done. Anything else you want to touch on from the event, or did we cover it all? Mostly.
I think we covered the stuff we wanted to bring up for sure.
All right, perfect. Well, everyone, there you go. That's our impressions of some of the top things we saw at Gamescom. Let us know in the comments below what you think of everything we touched on, or anything else you may have seen at the show. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don, where can people follow you at for more of your takes on Gamescom and anything else?
You can follow me at Nintendo, that's NANTNDAAN.
All right, perfect. I'll link to that in the description below. Thanks for watching, everyone. Click subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll catch you later. Maybe next year for more Gamescom stuff. Who knows? All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.